that we've fully explored what purpose and well-being are, we need to dive into how we define transition itself, and realizing that you will probably be in a different stage from others when it comes to your own military experience, the first thing that you need to do is define your own specific transition. Now, transition defined is what happens between any 2 points. Those 2 points can be anything really, from military to a civilian or corporate career, from being single to being married, from being in a job you hate and trying to find one you love, or from being a student to a graduate. Regardless of the type and scale of the transition you're going through, though, the process begins in the same way. First, defining your points A and B. A, answering the questions, where are you coming from, or what stage of life are you coming out of? And B, being, where do you want to end up, or what is the stage of life you're moving into? For the sake of this discussion, let's take a common one, where A equals leaving the military and B equals finding a civilian job. Keep in mind that this is a bit simplistic since finding a job is only one part of reestablishing your life outside of the military, but you can always go back in and expand your definition as you see fit later. As we define those 2 points, we then can, in many cases, but not all, define the length of time between the two. In our example, the transition timeline could be anywhere between 6 and 18 months, but for the sake of simplicity, we can just say that our person is going to take the next year, 12 months, to complete this transition. A side note really quick, because above all, we need to be honest about this. There is no hard and fast way that you can truly predict what your transition will look like or how long it will take. If we could safely claim that life is simple and predictable, but we all know that it's not. For many in the same type of transition, they may find their ideal job in a matter of months. For others, it may take further education or working other jobs in the meantime. Through the RECON network, we talk with men and women in all stages, including those who have been out of the military for years but still haven't found their niche. And that's okay, so long as you're conscious of it, and don't let discouragement hang over your head when things don't turn out exactly the way you wrote them out on paper. So, as we start examining the transition period, some things are naturally going to rise to the surface. Namely, fears you may have going in, and opportunities you can see to seize upon during that time. Let's start with fears first. Consider your own transition. You've defined your from and your to, and you have some rough idea of how long this will take, or how long you'd like to plan for it to take at least. When you think about it, what fears rise to the surface? What are the things that give you pause or threaten your success? What are the things that give you anxiety or where you anticipate having to overcome other hurdles? As examples, you may feel fear because you've only ever known the military as an adult. You may feel anxious about whether or not you have the qualities it takes to find a job within the time frame you've noted. You may have family you aren't used to living with full time, maybe moving to a new location away from the base you've called home for so long. But whatever they are for you, the key point is to address them head on. Remember, fear is a liar. Pushing it to the side simply allows it to hover in the dark, threatening to pop up at inopportune times to fill you with doubt. Imagine for a second, you're halfway through your transition, you've had a few great interviews with companies you like, but nothing has quite come through and you're a little stalled. It's inevitable. If you don't have a game plan in place to deal with those fears, they will always choose to rise to the top when you're already struggling with the choices you made. They might say, you would have been better off staying in another 4 years. Or, no one out here understands you. Don't let those fears fester in the dark. Deal with them now. And to do that, simply come up with your counter-argument against the fear and write it down. Remind yourself of the truths that pushed you toward your decision in the first place. Once you've done that, you're freer to look at the opportunities in front of you and truly explore them apart from the fears that you've already discussed. While I would typically encourage a dose of realism in this area, this is also a place where rose-colored glasses are just fine. What are the opportunities you see in this transition? Can you make more money or have a more stable location to raise a family? Can you do something completely different than what you're used to or build something new to help others in a new way? As you identify these opportunities, it's important to keep them in the forefront of your mind. We talked earlier about fears cropping up along the course of your transition, and one of the best ways to diffuse fear is to leverage it with the opportunity or the why of why you're doing this and why it's important to keep moving forward. You may even want to identify your primary reason for the transition and write it on a Post-it note or keep it on a card in your wallet. Now I want you to take a minute, download the worksheet on transition that follows this video, and start mapping out your own transition. It doesn't have to be pretty. No one else will see this unless you showed it to them. But start identifying your path forward, the obstacles you may face, and the reward you're sure to see on the end. But before you do that, there's just one last thing. Transition is hard. That's a universal trait, not unique to veterans and not unique to you. That's because transition requires change, and a lot of it, and change is uncomfortable. There will be times where it doesn't seem worth it or where it seems like you're in over your head, but it's important to realize that there are others going through the exact same thing, and that you're not only capable of making it, you're capable of making it big.